would like my three panelists to spend 5 minutes each telling us about how they interpret sustaining the Earth and connected to activities on the Earth and connectivity. Shall we start with Randall?
Well, thank you for the invitation to Himalayan Consensus and particularly to Sujeev Sakya. I'm very happy that Himalayan Consensus is giving a really key emphasis to environmental protection. I'd like to echo some other comments that have been made today, particularly by Her Excellency the Ambassador of the United States regarding community-based management. I'm an environmental economist based in the U.S., but here for 7 months now as a Fulbright senior scholar. I've been involved with Nepal for 35 years, starting when I came as a U.S. Peace Corps volunteer in 1983, and then since have conducted research, did my dissertation focusing on forestry in Nepal. And I'd like to put some emphasis on that and can come back to some of the research that I and a team of co-researchers have done here. I guess the one takeaway I'd like to mention kind of here in Nepal is that as an environmental economist, I don't think there's much evidence for some sort of inevitable economy-environment trade-off. That may seem counterintuitive, but I'd like to just give you a couple of examples from here in Nepal, and then we can circle back to that. Of course, it's not inevitable that there's not a trade-off either, and a lot depends on using the existing knowledge connectivity that exists now related to environmental protection. And also, I would say that that's not a one-way sharing of information. As I'd like to kind of suggest a little bit, Nepal, I think, has a lot to share, has an obligation to share, and I think to some degree is sharing, especially with regard to this topic of our panel, Sustainable Earth. With regard to specifically on connectivity, for example, infrastructure connectivity, 30 years ago when I first came to Nepal, roads, water supplies, sanitation, they're very limited supply of those things. Now it's my understanding that almost all district centers have road connectivity. Water supply has dramatically improved in this time, and I realize it's a long period of time, but still, it's just huge improvements that I've seen. Open defecation-free districts and municipalities, just unthinkable 30 years ago. So just this infrastructure progress and connectivity is important. I'd like to focus in just a little bit on roads. I recently had the opportunity to go back to Salyan district and Rolpa, and after all this time, and found very different places. And I think roads are really an important part of that, and with important environmental implications, I think. Food prices much lower. Immediately when roads go in, food prices drop because you can access places where food is cheaper. And that's extremely important for human nutrition, and I think it's just obvious. But also works the other way, for export out of these areas. And of course, the transportation connectivity creates incentives to change cropping patterns, to move to higher value crops, maybe perennial crops. What I observed when I was back in Salyan and Rolp was an increased emphasis on tree crops. Of course, there's problems, and climate change has been mentioned. And in Salyan particularly, where oranges have become important, a lot of the areas are not getting sufficient rainfall, and those orange trees are drying up, and that's a high value tree crop, perennial tree crop that's being lost. Also, LPG. Absolutely unthinkable, even when I was back, 15 years ago. Now, a lot of LPG, and that has important climate implications. As you probably know, biomass cook stoves are an important source of black carbon. It's mentioned, that's melting of glaciers, but also it's a potent climate forcer. LPG has a lower, despite being a fossil fuel, it probably has a lower climate impact. That's my understanding, at least. As long as the in the stoves sustainably harvested wood is not what we're talking about. I'd also like to talk a little bit about knowledge connectivity, because Nepal is a leader in community-based forest management. As I know many of you know, many programs here in Nepal. Probably the largest is the Nepal Community Forestry Program, involving over a third of people here in Nepal, 35 or so percent, 19,000 groups. This is an important product of international knowledge sharing. This is the result of academic thought, practitioner thought. Probably the leading voice there was Elinor Ostrom, the Nobel Prize winner, that asked the question in the 1980s and 70s, what can be done about this deforestation that we're observing in Nepal? And there were predictions in the 80s of complete deforestation of Nepal by the year 2000. Of course, that didn't happen for a bunch of reasons, but probably the Nepal Community Forestry Program is a piece of that. My understanding, based on the recent forest assessment here in Nepal, sponsored by the government of Finland in partnership with the government of Nepal, is that Nepal is about 40% covered in forest right now, which is, it's hard to compare with earlier figures, but that's probably a substantial increase. Now, this is a model for other countries. I also work in Africa. I've observed countries in Africa looking to Nepal as a model for this. Other countries that are facing severe deforestation problems, and down to 4% forest cover in Ethiopia and Kenya, where I also work. And they're saying, what can we do? And they're looking to Nepal for this experience and saying, well, what can you teach us? How can we deal with this problem? We want to address this. So I think that I'm quite sure, in fact, that the knowledge sharing connectivity goes both ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Liangjin.
Thank you. Distinguished moderator, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a great honor for me to attend this summit. My name is Peter. I'm from China Overseas Engineering Group, and I'd like to share some opinions about the quest for sustainable Earth. As well known that almost all the countries in the Himalayan region are agriculture-based countries. The main source of food, income, and employment for the majority are from agriculture. However, the increasing use of agrochemicals, higher production cost, and deteriorating ecosystem health have advocated the need to change traditional agriculture towards safe and sustainable organic farming. Robert Randall, the advocate of modern organic agriculture, once said, a garden is a special place linking our way of thinking with Earth itself. Organic farming is gradually adopted with the objective to protect the production capacity of oil and the ecosystem of the planet. And the mission is to minimize the negative impact on environment, economically empowering the society and grows healthy foods. Generally, the benefits of organic farming in this region reflect in the following aspects. Firstly, it can provide the society with environmentally friendly foods that are free of pollution and are also in good taste and safety. This will help protect people's health and reduce the incidence of disease. The large scale of application of chemical fertilizers and pesticides will increase the output of agricultural products. However, it will inevitably cause pollution, which is harmful to people's health. Organic agriculture does not use these harmful materials. Therefore, its products are very safe and they are of good quality and are good for human health. Secondly, it can reduce environmental pollution and restore ecological balance. Nowadays, the utilization rate of chemical fertilizers and pesticides is very low. The remaining large amounts of them flow into the environment, causing pollution. So switching to organic farming can reduce pollution and help restore ecological balance. Thirdly, it will help increase employment, farmers' income, and improve the quality of agricultural production. It uses traditional and indigenous farming knowledge while introducing selected modern technologies to manage and enhance diversity, to incorporate biological principles and resources into farming systems, and to intensify agricultural production. So by adopting organic agriculture, farmers are challenged to take on new knowledge and perspectives and to innovate. This leads to an increased engagement in farming, which can trigger greater opportunities for employment and economic upliftment through greater emphasis on use of local resources and self-reliance. Conversion to organic agriculture definitely contributes to the empowerment of farmers and the local communities. Last but not least, it will help improve the competitiveness of countries' agricultural products in the international arena and increase foreign exchange. This region has ample opportunities to promote organic farming owing to its physical and natural endowment, prevailing farming practice, increasing economic profile, and the tourist destination. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you very much. Khemraj would be happy to hear your interpretation of the quest for a sustainable Earth.
Sustainable Earth for today and tomorrow. 7.5 billion people share the world. Really we share the space, but we don't share the resources. What I'm saying here, if we share all resources equitably, there might not be a problem. If West and East, South, Middle East will be able to share the resources, Nepal should be happy to share the revenue of the Mount Everest. Then it will be equitable to all. Then we will aim for that. When you go back to the ground and see what's really happening here around, when I was born in a village, then became a rural municipality. Now it became urban municipality. Now it's going to become metro municipality. The development means what? Only urbanization? Can a village be a village and sustain there? The thinking has a problem for me when I see the village cannot be a village and a wealthy village, homely village, but we have to have urban. All roads to be black-topped. Really? Can we afford? Do we need? On the other hand, notion is there, we need to have it there. Every year, from yesterday we started in Nepal, the high school graduates, 500,000 students every year graduates, only 200,000 will be able to continue higher education. Where remaining 300,000 will go? No way. Why we are not trying to repatriate them back to the economy to invest rather than sending to the Middle East? Or sending to the Middle East and Malaysia, can we train, skill, and facilitate them to bring something better around? So that's a huge thing. In only Kathmandu Valley, there are 40,000 home-based producers producing fantastic items there. Can we promote those markets externally to share? So for sustainable Earth, we need to see a larger picture, which we have already inside within us. I work in a BRAC. BRAC have a different working structure in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, in Afghanistan. We all like across. In Sri Lanka, one road connectivity from east to south has changed the Sri Lanka. Why not we here? We have one airport here. Can't they have another runway together rather than creating another airport south and down, spoil the paddy field, and we're not getting rice? Just one more runway, 50 meters east from the Kathmandu runway will solve half of the problem. Koteshwar bypass, can you put one tunnel there, then pre-out the counter traffic there? We're not attempting that. So there's a lot of solutions which we have inside within us, but we're not attempting. If we try, solution is there. So we should be ready to share the resources, not only share the planet to live. Thank you very much.
Randall, you talked a lot about the really positive opportunities of not really having trade-offs between economy and the environment, but actually being able to improve both at the same time. But what do you see as some of the challenges moving forward? And I'd like to hear a bit more about that, as well as anything else you'd like to say for a few more minutes.
Okay. Well, thank you. I don't. I mean, just that's a very big question, very broad question. And I don't want. It's been mentioned already, but I think it's obvious and well known that the climate change challenge is the one that is absolutely upon us. I think we, during my 7 months here so far, I've seen a number of bits of evidence of this just right here. We're seeing these effects now, and so. But that, of course, is not a. Nepal is a small contributor to that. That's something that we need to handle internationally. But that's of course the one that, and that's affecting just about everything. A huge challenge, and of course, sitting here as an American, it's a huge embarrassment that we're not part of the Paris Agreement right now.
Thanks. Peng Liangjin, you work for the China Overseas Engineering Company, right? And
Yeah.
you're working on a big river diversion project, the Behri Babai, where you move the water from the Behri River, drop it into the Babai River.
Yeah.
And you're bringing to Nepal for the first time a tunnel boring machine. I would like to ask you to tell us a little bit more about both. One is the benefits of moving water from one river to the other. Why is this project being done, if you can help us understand that? And the second is a tunnel boring machine, of course, sounds like the obvious solution to having connectivity problems across the mountains. If the tall mountains are blocking us from reaching each other, why not drill holes through them? Do you see this machine as being something that can help us connect from one valley to another across the mountains, have lots of tunnels that carry more than water? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes. The Himalayan region is an important supply base for water, energy, and a strategic resource. However, the poor infrastructure of communications and transportation system has prevented extensive industry and trade in these countries. Therefore, the need for infrastructure to promote exports and connectivity is of great significance. Our company, China Overseas Engineering Group, possesses outstanding capability and capacity in overseas engineering. So we have constructed many infrastructures in the developing countries and are pursuing sustainable growth and connectivity. Yes, just as the moderator has mentioned, we have the Behri diversion multipurpose project located in Circuit district in Nepal. Our company is responsible for the Headways Tunnel and is aware of the challenges associated with tunneling in tough geology. So we choose TBM over the traditional method of drill and blast due to the faster mobilization and the rate of advance offered by mechanized mining. Because use the conventional method, it could have taken at least 12 years for the project completion. By using TBM, it will take no more than 5 years. Moreover, under the complex geological conditions, using the TBM method has an obvious safety advantage over the traditional DBM method. When the project is completed, the water will be used to irrigate about 51,000 hectares of land around the year in Peng and Upadhyaya districts. This project will also generate 48 megawatts of electricity. It is expected to help aid the food crisis in the Midwestern Nepal by increasing agricultural yields and invigorating socio-economic development in this region. So the construction of the infrastructures not only connects to specific districts, but also promotes the common development. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Khemraj, you asked lots of very insightful questions to make us think about a number of issues. What do you see as the priority actions moving forward?
A person who was born up into the lap of the Mount Everest, after 17 years of study, ran away from the village, and I spent months in Kathmandu State with the dogs. And coming to the stage, I would like to think, we all need to think collectively, how much development is enough? Can we stop here and think, rather than completely keep doing something which is harming and harming and harming all of us together? So rather than doing something new, more, we need to collectively think how much development is enough, then we need to record.